Hey, eighth grade, Mrs. Stowe here again for our second Matthias project session, which is actually called name calling, and I'm going to come over here for now so that I'm not in the way. So, a few things before we get started, because this lights me up as we're getting closer and we're getting into the nitty gritty, and we're talking about our confirmation names and the saints that we're going to choose. This really fires me up, and this is why I do what I do, because I absolutely love helping to guide you and answer questions and get you to the place where you are ready to accept a life of faith for yourself. But before we begin, a few things that I just need to take care of. When we ask you on the slides, let me get to one right here where it says, before we begin, please type your name. We do not gather email addresses. We do not gather any of that. But what we do is the app that I use to make sure that everyone has completed their session actually shows me who has answered and what they've answered as they've gone along. So it is very important in completing these sessions. We put these sessions together for a reason. It's because when you are there with Bishop Kulik, you are responsible for what we are talking to you about, these sessions that we're having for you. That's why we put them together. We just don't put them together to be like, oh, let's give them something to do. It's important for you to understand, as you are undergoing the sacrament of confirmation and making this decision for yourself, what you are actually deciding upon. It's important for you to make an informed decision. And so please do not just put your name in here and think that you can just go through the rest of the slides and not answer any questions and we won't notice. Oh no, I am noticing, and I am seeing that you are not answering the questions. I can't tell if you're going through the content because you're not answering. And I'm seeing just names and nothing else answered throughout the rest of the session. I can't say that you took it. I can't say that you completed it because your answers aren't there. So from this point forward, please, if we could, please not just put your name in here and think that you're done. That's not it. We need to make sure that you are completing it. And by having you type your name, we don't have to accept email addresses. We don't really have to track people. We're just asking for you to put your name so that we can figure out who you are, and make sure that you are completing the content that you need to before confirmation goes underway. With that said, let's move on to our second session, which is name calling. And we're not going to be calling any names, but instead today, this session is going to focus on what exactly it is that you need to know about picking a name for confirmation. I had a really good question from someone in the last Q&A. I left a slide up of, any questions that you had, please feel free to ask it. And someone asked a really great question. How do I know that I'm making the right choice? How do I know that this is the right decision for me? I am not sure. And this is where those important people in your faith life come into play. Me, Father John, Father Roniel, any of the deacons, Miss Jen, Mr. Matt, any of the people that help us with the program are going to be wonderful supporters. Also, this is why we ask you to come up to think of a sponsor, someone who is going to guide you throughout this process, that is going to be there for you when you have questions that you might not feel comfortable asking your parents or guardians. And why we ask you to pick a saint. Because this saint, while it is not someone that is still on this earth, it is someone who has gone before you, marked with the sign of faith, have fought for their faith in some way, have done something, whether they were martyred or they lived an extremely faithful life. Okay, they were a role model for how we are expected to live. And by choosing a saint to pray to and to intercede for you in heaven, especially to God, it's important because these are the people that are going to help guide you in this life of faith. You can't just do it yourself. I'm going to be really honest with you. When I was your age, I wasn't completely sure. And I had a very good sponsor that answered all of those questions that I didn't feel comfortable asking my parents. And I picked a name that of a saint that I felt a little bit of a connection to. And that's what we're going to talk about a bit today. So let's get started. My assistant is here, my dog Beauregard, so please excuse the squeaking. All right, so just to review from the last session, we talked about how when God um, has a special job or special work that he wants people to do for him, he will sometimes change their name. Jesus did this as well. Okay, Simon became Peter and Levi became Matthew, and a change in name signifies a change in status. So when you were baptized, it wasn't a decision that you made for yourself. It was a decision that your parents and guardians made for you. And I just want you to think about for a second if you've ever gone to the doctors or the eye doctor and had to get your eyes dilated so that they could check and make sure that your eyes were functioning the way that they should. Okay, and you have to get your eyes dilated so that they can kind of see a little bit better. And you end up having to walk around with sunglasses that like dark out your whole entire, make everything around you is very dark. You can kind of see, but you kind of can't because there's so much light that's going to get into your eyes that it's going to give you a headache if you get that much light in your eyes. So they give you those really dark sunglasses. I hope you know what I'm talking about to help kind of tone out the light. But I want you to think about that in terms of your baptism. Okay, you weren't really able to do much for yourself. You couldn't feed yourself, you couldn't clothe yourself, you couldn't clean yourself, you couldn't use the potty yet. Okay, you really couldn't do much of anything for yourself. And that's what those kind of really dark sunglasses from the eye doctors, okay, kind of symbolizes. Your parents and guardians were picking for you. You did not pick your given name at baptism yourself. Okay, move on to another sacrament and first communion. Okay, you make the decision to. So when you received your first communion, it was kind of like going from those completely blocked out sunglasses to these right here. Okay, now you can kind of see, I can see a little bit. I can see, but there are still lines there. And when you received your first communion, this is kind of what changed. Okay, you were not able to really decide everything for yourself. Okay, your parents told you when it was time to go to bed. Okay, they kind of drove you to places you kind of really couldn't do that yourself, but you chose to receive the Eucharist. Okay, and so Jesus became a part of you. So you have a little bit more, okay, of the ability to make decisions, but not all of the decisions in the eyes of the church. Okay, you're still going to church with your parents and guardians, and then when you receive confirmation, what is going to happen is, those glasses are going to come off, and you have full vision in the eyes of the church. Okay, so you, in terms of being a Catholic, are fully initiated. You are a fully initiated member of the Catholic Church when you make your confirmation. So a change in name signifies the change in status. You no longer have anything blocking your vision. It is all you and all your vision. So that actually, I think, knocks out another question that someone asked me about what is the difference. Okay. When the Holy Spirit comes down upon you, you are given the ability to make decisions for yourself. And so these glasses that kind of block out your vision kind of go away. Okay, so with a change in name, signifies a change in status, and that is why we have this name calling session, because it's important for you to know a few key things as you're making the choice of what your confirmation name is going to be. All right. So, what is in a name? So, when you were born, your parents chose your name. It may have been to honor a special person in their lives, maybe like a grandfather, grandmother, aunt, uncle, someone very important. Okay, they may have chosen it based on the meaning that was behind it. I would love to say that I have a super cool meaning behind my name, but honestly, my mom just took her name and like got Scrabble tiles and like moved it around until she found something that she liked. And that was what she ended up going with. And that's how I became Lisa. My sister was actually born, her name is Maria. She actually was born in honor of the Blessed Virgin Mary because my mom had some difficulties early on in her pregnancy. And she prayed to Mary that if everything was okay and my sister was born, then they would name her in honor of Mary. So that is how my sister got her name. It is how I got mine. What I want you to do real quick and on the next slide is I want you to ask your parents and guardians, why did they choose the name that they chose for you? Why did they give you that name at baptism? Go find out and answer in the next slide. We'll see you soon.